What is up, guys? This is Joe from Deepwood Force of Will here, bringing you a deck profile. We got Valentina here, Valentina 3. I brought this to our recent ARG states. I went X1-3 because I drew everything. If I didn't draw in all those matches, I probably would have won them, but that only means so much because, you know, you go down the ramp, but whatever. I was very confident with how I played with this deck, it just didn't show in the results. So this is basically the Italian list. I'm going to try and go into how the deck works and how it winds up overall, you know, just so people know how it works, because the Italian list didn't really have any description with it. First off, we got Valentina. She's a blue-black ruler, has a judgment for 3, including blue, black, and a colorless. The Energize, you get that with it, which is blue-black, which is really good, because it means you can consistently Darkstorm on 2 or Space-Time Anomaly on 2 if you're going second. And then the good text on the front side of her card comes at the bottom, which is whenever you play a black, a water chant, things lose attack. If you play a darkness chant, they lose defense. And if you play a blue-black one, they lose both attack and defense. So it's really strong with like Space-Time Anomaly and makes a lot of black spells like multiple kill spells. So you go from like these single target removals that black has to AoE. The backside of her isn't very important. Most importantly, it's just 1,000,000. It'll let you get in some extra pressure, and that's the big thing. You can pay 1 less for water darkness things, but there's nothing in that deck except for in the side with this thing, the Deceptive Dream. But you're not going to do that. You can also sack Resonators to draw things and destroy things, but that's never going to happen. Anyway, let's get into the actual deck list. This is a stealth deck, so it's important to get the stealth engine, which is the 4 Rizas. The original Italian list had 2 Melders. I bumped it up to 3 because unfortunately I kept drawing into a Melder and then like not one of the horns to recycle it. So it was just a little bit inconsistent in that manner, so I felt it was more important to bump up the Melder so I could consistently get the double Melder off of the double Riza. Next up is Unseen Pressure, which is an insanely good card. If they're playing any type of ramp deck with Tamas, Melfi, and Sacred Elves, those are all targets for Unseen Pressure, and this card gets insane value out of it. It also deals -100 defense to a Resonator while you have the Valentina out, so you get good value in that turn. Really strong card. I pretty much always try to mulligan for this card because it'll really solidify your early game, and it's really good if you're going second and you need to play against a Resonator. Next up, we start going to the discard outlets. 4 Scorn of Dark Alice, very strong card, always important. Get Resonators out of their hand so it lightens the load on your kill spells. Them not having Resonators in hand meaning you can concentrate more on trying to develop or conserving resources and maybe going for their hand even more from there. In addition to these 4, we got two the Nameless Mist. It's not the strongest, I would say, but there are some matchups where Nameless Mist is really important, so it's good to have them in the main deck. I would not keep Nameless Mist in most self-looting hands, especially in Game 1 if I don't know what ruler they're playing. Next up is Death at Midnight. This is a card I really didn't think was going to be all that strong. I thought Encounter with Cthulhu was going to be a stronger one, but after a little bit of playtesting, it's evident why you play Death at Midnight as opposed to anything else. Because after you go through like your stealth combos, or if you do play Resonators, because the side does go into a lot of Resonators, you don't want to have to banish your own things. You'd rather just, whenever they play a singular minion, banish it. Also, the +1/+1 counter to all J Resonators your opponent control rarely comes into effect, so it's pretty much, it's almost like having Stoning to Death in your deck, which is incredible. It also is the 2 black chance, so it can deal 200 damage to Tamas. Next up is Darkstorm. I don't need to explain why this card's good. It's Delinquent Duo, but you don't have to pay life, and it shreds hands. It also will kill a Tama if they have that on board, so that's really strong. I put in 1 Black Moonbeam. That's also a change from the Italian list. The Italian list had 2 Black Moonbeams in the side. I switched up to a Black Moonbeam in the main because I thought I was having a little bit of a hard time against J-Ruler-based strategies like Zero and Valentina, so I think this is a little bit stronger. In the duel videos that we're also doing right now, it shows up a lot that this is a really strong card to have in the main. Next up is for Space-Time Anomaly. This is probably the best card in the deck. It's draw a card twice and deal -7, -7 to whatever you want, or -5, -2, -5, -2 to 2 different targets. Really strong. And the Remnant just means you get to turn cards into more cards and turn their cards into nothing. From there we have for Prison the Lunar Lake. Prison is just really strong in this format, with Fox being all about enter effects, and that Lumia hook deck always roaming around, not liking to get... They like to get their enters off. I don't want them to get their enters off, because if I lose stones, then my stealth combo might not go off, and I start running out of ways to deal with their threats. So it's important to keep a lot of these in the main deck. If you told me when Lunar Lakes first started seeing play that it was going to become a 4 of in this deck, in a deck, I would have probably said you're crazy, but apparently it happened. Next we have 2 Endless Knights. This is just a straight up kill spell for 3 will. It also has the -2 debuff to the whole board, so if you wind up falling behind because they have a swarm opening, you can Endless Knight their biggest thing and then spread -2s across everything, and then use Val's -2 to clean up any type of leftovers and hopefully clear the board with just 1 3 will card. It's pretty strong. I wish this card was a little bit cheaper though. I'd rather just like play Stoning to Death if I had the option to. The card that wins you the control matchups is going to be Valentina's Reach. If they start ripping out your hand before you could rip out theirs, you go, alright, Valentina's Reach, let me redraw a whole new hand, and now you got to start from scratch trying to discard it. Also, if you have a lot of cards in hand and you still haven't ripped their hand apart, I don't know what you're doing, but you can just shred their hand with this card. Also, because it's blue-black X, you can deal like massive amounts of debuffs with this card. Like during the game, there was a point where I did Space-Time Anomaly to deal -5/-5 to a Titania, and then use the rest of my will with Valentina's Reach to draw a bunch of cards and burn the rest of that Titania. So I really love this card. There's a 4th one in the side deck. Honestly, I should play 4 of them, but I'm not that greedy. And the last card in the deck is a Horn of the Sacred Beast. Most of the time you actually want to concentrate on not banishing out your Space-Time Anomalies, and then instead of using the Remnants, just get them shuffled back into your deck, because then you get more steam for the rest of the game. But in general, it's just there to make sure that you just don't run out of steam against certain decks, especially other decks that are running Horror of the Sacred Beast if you run out of win conditions. Next up is a Stone deck. It's 4 blue-black stones. The extra effects on it don't matter. It's a shock stone, but you're Val, so it doesn't matter. 4 more blue-black stones and Dark Depths, and then 2 Sorrowful Necromancer's Memoria. So you really consistently... There's a 1 in 45 chance that you don't hit blue by turn 2, so your Space-Time Anomaly is always going to be alive, and there's a 100% chance that you hit double black by turn 2, so it's always safe to keep Lapis's Darkstorm in your opening hand, and it'll be very powerful when you do. Sorrowful Necromancy's Memoria is important because you get to rip out the Killing Stones from their graveyard, and in certain matchups with the Dance of Shadows, you can rip Dance of Shadows out, chase to it, rip out whatever they're targeting with the Dance of Shadows. It just gives you a lot of options, and since you're not playing like Dark Alice, which would always have that option available, you just get it in a more expensive package, and then keep the benefits of being Valentina. Last but not least is the side deck, which is pretty crazy in general. When I saw this, I wasn't really sure what was going on, but it made sense after I played a little bit. So it plays, first off, a Deceptive Dream. Let's not talk about this card yet. Let's go to the 4 Charlotte's Wielder of the Sacred Spirit. So this is supposed to act as almost like a 5th Charlotte. It's when this enters your field. Well, let's go with Charlotte first. It's got barrier for the number of cards you have in hand, which is really strong against a control matchup. Like if you're playing a mirror, most of Black's control cards are 3 or less will, so if you have 3 or more cards in hand, they can't kill it ever. Against Fox, if you somehow get to 7 cards in hand, they can't omit it, and it's a 14/14. There's also weird lethal options that you can do with Charlotte because it's a because you have attack based on the number of cards you have in hand. You can use like Valentina's Reach to draw a ton of cards and then have a lot of power behind it. Like if you have 6 cards in hand, it's 12-12, and then you use Valentina's Reach for 7 cards. You have 19. You have 9 cards in hand. No, 18 cards in hand. 18. It becomes an 18-18. You have 9 cards in hand. Thank you. Okay, so yeah. And so you can get through, you can deal a lot of damage that way, especially if you get 2 of them. Basically, it's just there for control matchups and is an additional threat against certain matchup. It's kind of hard to say when exactly you side this in because I sided it in a lot, even if it was just 2 of. I sided in 4 against like Dark Alice, but against other matchups I sometimes sided in 2 because I thought I needed more threats in the early game. The Deceptive Dream acts as the 5th Charlotte. It's when it enters, your opponent discards a card, and then when it goes to the graveyard, you draw a card. It's a 7/7, so it's a little bit weaker, but it's alright overall. It's a decent card. Next up is, I'll put that at the end actually, 2 more Nameless Mists. Sometimes Scorn isn't that great of a card, but because they're playing like Soul or Mercurius, or they're not playing the other one. So Nameless Mist helps you rip out those combo pieces from their hand. So it's sometimes you just don't want to have Scorns and you'd rather have Nameless Mists. It's just ratio adjusting based on your matchup. So it's good to have that on your side. Second Black Moonbeam in matchups where they're J-Ruler dependent, like Val 2.0 or 0. Having the second Moonbeam, you can get to it quicker, can just spell game over for your opponent, or slow them down enough so that you can just steal the game. 5th, another Endless Night. I don't think the Italian list was playing this, but I wanted it to be a Magic Rebound, and I think that would have been a stronger pick overall. But Endless Night's always a good card. If you're playing against a Swarm deck, it makes a lot of sense. 4th Valentina's Reach in case you're against control. It gives you better options of not having it ripped out of your hand and drawing into it so you can redraw a hand and play the game again. And the craziest part of this is you side into Blazer with a Skyscraper Giant. So Blazer is your like anti-Fox and anti-J-Ruler fuel, and then you have the Deathscythe, so if they're playing Val 2.0 and or 0, you get rid of their swiftness and perishable, make sure that you kill them early, and then since all your stones become red, why not just play Skyscraper Giant? You're buried against chance, so, and you are flying 17/17. Oh, sorry, target thing without flying. But you got precision, and it's a 17/17. It hits really hard, and it's like impossible to move in the Dark Alice matchup, so pretty strong card. That's the deck list, guys. So let us know down below what you think of Val 3.0 and the Italian list and how it looks out. If you played the list over the States weekend, let us know, because I definitely want to hear what your thoughts were and how that deck went for you. And that's going to be it.